Welcome to GEK JRF Academy. If you are preparing for the CSIR NET JRF, DBT-BET, GEK Life Sciences, or ICMR entrance examinations, you already know that these are among the most intellectually demanding assessments in Indian science. They are not simply testing what you have memorized. They are testing how you think. GEK JRF Academy is a concept-driven learning ecosystem built specifically for this challenge. It is not a question bank. It is not conventional coaching. It is a platform engineered to develop one thing above all else: genuine scientific thinking. The kind of thinking that carries you through an unfamiliar examination question, through a PhD interview, and through a lifetime in research. Before we examine what makes the platform different, let us first take a look at what it offers and who it is designed for. GEK JRF Academy is accessible at gekjrfacademy.com, and it serves students preparing for 4 major life science examinations: CSIR UGC NET JRF, DBT-BET, ICMR-JRF, and GEK Life Sciences. The platform brings together every tool a serious candidate needs: a curated study set library, a full practice test engine, 10 years of previous year questions, and an AI-powered study assistant. The numbers speak to the depth of the resource: over 21,000 MCQs, a decade of past papers, 3 independent explanation modes for every question, and full coverage of CSIR NET Section C, the most analytically demanding component of any of these examinations. All of this is designed not just to prepare students for examinations, but to develop the scientific reasoning that research demands. To understand why this platform is built the way it is, we need to first be honest about what conventional preparation methods actually do, and why they consistently fall short. Consider the standard preparation cycle that most students follow. They encounter a question. They identify the correct answer. They note the pattern. And they repeat this across hundreds, sometimes thousands, of questions. This method produces a kind of surface fluency: a student can navigate familiar territory quickly. But there is a fundamental problem. What is being strengthened is not scientific reasoning, it is recognition. And recognition fails the moment a question is phrased differently, uses an unfamiliar experimental system, or combines 2 concepts in an unexpected way. The second consequence is even more serious. When a student never examines why the wrong options are wrong, misconceptions remain invisible, quietly accumulating beneath the surface. The result is a preparation strategy that produces acceptable scores on familiar material and collapses under the analytical pressure of CSIR NET Part C. This raises the central question: what would a learning system look like if it was designed specifically to develop reasoning, not just recall? That question is precisely what GEK JRF Academy was built to answer. GEK JRF Academy is built on a single principle: every feature on the platform must develop scientific thinking, not reward memorization. The MCQ library contains over 21,000 questions, but these are not ordinary questions. Each one is engineered to target the mechanism, not the name. The condition, not the fact. Every explanation is delivered in 3 independent modes. A conceptual mode that walks through analytical reasoning step by step. A visual mode that provides concept-based visual illustrations clarifying pathways and molecular mechanisms in scientifically accurate detail. And a cognitive mode that maps how the concept connects to broader biological principles. 3 separate reasoning pathways for a single question, because understanding is not one-dimensional. The platform also provides something rarely seen in preparation resources: distractor analysis. Every incorrect option is individually explained, not dismissed, but dissected. Because the reason a wrong answer seems plausible is often where the most important learning happens. To understand why this rigor matters, we need to think about cognition itself, about the different levels at which scientific understanding can exist, and where CSIR NET Part C lives on that spectrum. learning scientists have long recognized that knowledge exists at different cognitive levels. At the base, there is recall, the ability to retrieve a fact. Above that, comprehension, the ability to explain a mechanism. Then application, predicting what changes when conditions shift. Analysis, recognizing how multiple mechanisms relate to each other. Synthesis, integrating experimental data into a coherent interpretation. And at the highest level, evaluation, reasoning the way a scientist does, weighing evidence, identifying assumptions, and drawing defensible conclusions. CSIR NET Part C, worth 100 marks, operates primarily at the top 3 levels. It demands analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. It presents novel experimental scenarios, asks you to interpret data you have never seen, and rewards students who reason from principle rather than retrieve from memory. Most preparation methods train students heavily at levels 1 and 2, and leave them unprepared for the higher cognitive demands. GEK JRF Academy deliberately targets all 6 levels, systematically building the depth that Part C requires. The most direct way to demonstrate what this looks like in practice is to examine an actual question together. Here is a typical Section C question. A kinase-dead mutant of the EGFR, carrying a lysine to alanine substitution at the ATP binding site, is overexpressed in a cell line. When EGF is added, which of the following best describes the expected outcome? A student who has memorized EGFR signaling might immediately think EGFR plus EGF equals activation. But that pattern-based instinct leads directly to the wrong answer. Let us reason through each option the way a scientist would. Option A suggests normal ERK activation proceeds. But the kinase domain is dead, no autophosphorylation, no downstream signal. Eliminated. Option B says the receptor internalizes normally. But CBL-mediated ubiquitination and internalization are kinase-dependent. Eliminated. Option D claims EGF cannot even bind. But EGF binding is mediated by the extracellular domain, entirely independent of kinase activity. Eliminated. Option C is correct. The receptor dimerizes, because dimerization is a ligand-driven extracellular event, but it cannot autophosphorylate, and therefore the downstream signaling cascade is completely abrogated. Notice what happened. We arrived at the correct answer not by recall, but by reasoning from the mechanism of the receptor. Every question on GEK JRF Academy requires exactly this kind of thinking. And that thinking develops through practice under realistic conditions, which brings us to the practice test engine. The Instant Rank Engine is the platform's examination simulation environment. It offers full-length mock tests of 100 questions, timed and structured to mirror real CSIR NET conditions including negative marking. For targeted preparation, section-wise tests of 50, 150, or 200 questions are available. Every session can be paused and resumed, because preparation does not always happen in a single sitting. A student who saves progress mid-test returns to exactly the same state, without losing a single response. What happens after the test is as important as the test itself. The Analytics module generates a performance map, accuracy by topic, time distribution across questions, and a clear picture of which areas need the most attention. Critically, the same 3-mode explanations available in the study sets are available immediately after every practice test submission. Every incorrect response becomes a teaching moment. This combination of simulation and post-test analysis is designed to close the gap between where a student is and where they need to be. But the platform also recognizes that the most valuable examination questions are the ones that have already been set, the previous year questions that carry the fingerprints of what examiners actually value. 10 years of CSIR NET questions, from 2016 to 2025, are available on the platform. But not simply as a searchable archive. Each previous year question has been individually curated and transformed. The answer key alone tells you nothing about the science. What matters is understanding why the correct answer is mechanistically correct, and why each incorrect option fails for a specific, principled reason. On GEK JRF Academy, every previous year question comes with the same three-mode explanation structure that accompanies the original MCQ library. A photocopy of a past paper becomes a full teaching episode. The transformation is systematic. Isolated questions become nodes in a connected concept network. Pattern repetition becomes principle mastery. A student who truly understands why a 2019 question has the answer it does can answer any variant of that question regardless of how it appears in future examinations. Because examinations change the question. They cannot change the underlying biology. And when students develop that depth of understanding, when they move from recognition to genuine scientific reasoning, something important happens to their outcomes. This platform exists to answer a simple but important question: what if world-class, concept-driven scientific education were genuinely accessible to every aspirant who wishes to pursue a career in research? GEK JRF Academy is built on that belief. Study sets start from just 60 rupees. Subscription plans offer savings of up to 94% compared to individual purchases, making premium, structured scientific learning available at a cost that every student can manage. But affordability alone is not the point. What you are building here is not just an examination score. You are developing conceptual understanding, the ability to explain the mechanism, not just recall the name. You are building analytical reasoning, the ability to evaluate novel experimental data. Quantitative thinking, the ability to work through calculations under pressure. And scientific problem solving, the ability to reason the way a researcher does. These are skills that serve you in your CSIR NET paper, in your PhD interview, in your first research position, and across a lifetime in science. Master concepts. Develop scientific thinking. Build a successful research career. Explore GEK JRF Academy today at https://gekjrfacademy.com.